Shalom Aleichem, we're learning the Sikha Vayechi Kaf Shin Chaf Hey Chelek Aleph, the first year of Rashi Sikhas. In this Farbrengen, the Rebbe has three Sikhas that became parts of the Kutta Sikhas: Chelek Tezvav, Chelek Yud, and Chelek Chaf. Three Rashi Sikhas, which is quite fascinating. Three Rashi Sikhas and one Farbrengen. But the Farbrengen began on Shabbos Parshas Vayechi Yudal Tevis, which is the same kviyas, same setup as this year, explaining Rashi. Right? We know the Sikha Lama Parshas Ustuma and all the differences from the Medrash and the answer that the Rebbe gave, because the stima, the closing, is at the beginning of the parsha. So therefore, it must have something to do with the Teichen Klalus HaSedra, the Klalustika part of the Sedra, which is the passing of Yaakov, the Petita of Yaakov. And therefore, Rashi removed the third reason of the Medrash called Sada Shabba'ilam, because that is Chayas, which is the opposite of Petita. Okay. Now, the reason that this parsha is called Vayechi, all the way until the end of the parsha, which talks about Vayasam Ba'arim B'Mitzrayim, about Yosef, it's all part of Yechi. Why? Because the fact that Mitzrayim didn't bury Yosef, but rather put him into an oven and dropped him into the Nilos, shows that the Mitzrayim knew that the Yidden are standing in a Maimon Matzav in a situation where they're ready for Geula anytime. This is what the Rebbe said at the original Farbrengen. And therefore, they wanted to hold back the Geula Chas v'Shalom by preventing the Yidden of taking the bones of Yosef, which is fascinating. I mean, that's a whole vart on itself, that the reason the Goyim put Yosef in the water is because they wanted to make it impossible that said that the Yidden should be able to take them out. So we explained that why is the whole parsha called Vayechi, because the Midas Inyan HaChaim, the true Chaim, is seen dafka when Yaakov is nifter in the last 17 years that he was in Mitzrayim, that even in Evras Haaretz, in the lowest place of the world, he is Mitase Shlema, which was a proof that all his years, Bepnimius, were Vayechi Yaakov. The Rebbe explained at the Farbrengen, which doesn't come so clear in the Muga, the Rebbe explained, what am I saying? That the Ribuy HaToiv, the incredible amount of good that was in the last 17 years, came and caused an understanding that it was worth all the pain of the last years before, and of the painful years, and so much so that the painful years themselves were toiv, were good. Just like when Mashiach comes, we'll say, Eicha Hashem, ki anaftabi, thank you Hashem for all the tzaros you gave me, because you gave me tzaros. And this also explains the Maimer Chazal. The Rebbe said, Tzadikim, that Chilas and Yisudim, the Seif and Shalva, that they start off with Yisudim and they end off with peace. Very interesting. The Kavanah is not that there's differences from Yisudim to Shalva. How do I know that? Because by Tzadikim is Emes, and Emes is one. So, unlike Sheker, which is constantly changing, or compromises, which are Sheker, that are expressed in different ways. By Tzadik, it's all consistent. So what do we mean? Chilasa and Yisud and Seif and Shalva. Seif and Shalva is the revelation, the deep revelation of the Chilas and Yisudim, that they realized that the Pnimius was always Shalva. And then we finished off the Sikha that after his Ptira, Zayir B'chaim as well, that we see that even in the time of all the Galus, etc., they were able to be alive. Why? Because, and the whole point of why he didn't say the Ketz, and here's another interesting verse. Rebbe says if the Ketz was revealed, then it would lack the Takef of Galus, and it would lack the Takef of Galus. The Rebbe said by the Farbrengen, this is how we explained also in Parshas Miketz. We know that Yosef was talking very tough to his brothers, and he locked them up for 3 days. How is it possible that Yosef would be so difficult to his brothers? And the answer is because he wanted that the 210 years of Galus should start now. Instead of the Yidden being 210 years of Galus, not just in Mitzrayim, but 210 years of pain, so he accomplished that the Galus starts now, which is quite fascinating. But then the Rebbe said Haydah, which doesn't really come across in the Farbrengen. The Rebbe doesn't really talk about the Haydah. So here's the Eidah, because everything in Torah has to have Eidah. There are some people who tell us, some people who say, why is there such challenges on Torah mitzvahs? Why does the Eibishter make it that in our physical eyes, you could convince yourself that by being ethical in business and being makbid on tefillah with tzibur and learning after davening, so therefore you come to work half an hour late, it shows up that I'm earning less than my friend who's doing none of this. He says, what do you mean? The way I'm behaving, and I'll be Torah, the Eibishter should give me ashirus, and then it would be good for him, for me, and Hashem. And why? Why would it be good for Hashem? Because if his friend sees that my behavior is leading to Torah, to success, he'll do the same thing. So the answer is when it's with looking for limud schus, then it's a good taina. Like the Vayechi told the Eibishter, what are you complaining about the Jews when you put the taivas of Elam Hazeh in front of our eyes and Gan Eden you put in a sefer? So in other words, yeah, it's a good taina when you're trying to be malamet schus on Yidden. But when we're looking for avodah, and each avodah alibid nafshay, the way we are, and we have to know that we have to work and not expect anything free. And therefore the Eibishter gives nisyanis so that we should achieve the true goodness. And just like Dafka through Golus Mitzrayim, that their eyes were closed, their hearts were closed from all the tzaras, and that led to Gili Matan Torah. So too in this Golus, which is much longer than Golus Mitzrayim, it's a Dafka through the Avodah Mesiras Nefesh and standing against all nisyanis, even though we don't know when it's going to end. Leinis Kala Kitzam, that's what's going to give us the Gili of Pnimius HaTorah, the Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Kadev Mamash. Amen. Amen.